Yeah, Zvon.
It ain't Zvon.
Yeah.
Zvonimir Tot. Hvala.
Wow. Wow, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Wow. I mean, I've heard some records, over the years, but I haven't heard that kind of thing, and a live performance, and it sounds great,
Well,
Zvonimir.
this was the. Thank you, Cathy, and thanks for having me. This was a festival live performance, but this arrangement of just a closer walk with the studio version is on my album Blue Quest. Well, this totally ages me. I still call them albums or records, but yes,
We're all, and I think everybody's calling them that.
my CD Blue Quest,
Yeah.
and yes, CDs are pretty much becoming obsolete as well. And another thing that's fairly obvious is that I'm twice the man I used to be, but oh well. Such is
Well, a lot of people are experiencing that this year. Hey, hi, Jack Mouse.
Oh, Jack is there. Hi, Jack.
Yeah, Jack and Janice are very good friends of mine, and I actually had both of them on the show.
Nice.
Yeah. Toby Simmons is here. She's a big fan and supporter, and Roland Askeruns, who's also a guitar. He's a kind of a hidden guitar player. He has a bunch of guitars at his house that, sometimes he'll, like when we do an event for charity, sometimes he'll go, "Should I give you one of my guitars?" And then it always ends up, no.
Well, to paraphrase, was it Nelson Rockefeller? How many guitars is enough? One more.
Well, I remember watching a video of, I think it was in the Netflix movie of Bill Frisell. Did you ever see that?
No.
Well, oh, it's a great movie. And of course, Bill Frisell, he's really an amazing player, artist. But anyway, you're in his apartment basically, and he opens a door to a closet, and there's 26 guitars hanging there in the closet. It's great.
I shall not cast the first stone. I'm
Well,
not quite there yet, but yeah, I do understand the itch.
Well, you know how, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but a lot of times singers will continue to date a particular kind of instrumentalist, like guitar players, or bass players or whatever. So I actually didn't follow the dating rule so much, but I have always had just a major musical thing for guitar. I really love singing with guitar. It's just the actual sensation of the sound waves or something. I don't know. It just makes me feel really good. I love singing with guitar.
And I like those formats with singers. I suppose the format with the voice, guitar, and perhaps double bass, with or without drums, can sometimes be a bit more intimate than that with the piano. Obviously, pianists have all sorts of technical and expressive possibilities that are literally impossible on the guitar. But the guitar can offer some expressive techniques that obviously the piano is not capable of. A little bend, a little vibrato, certain tonal characteristics that can be interesting in combination with the voice. So
Yeah. I might send you Dreamsville too. You probably don't have Dreamsville because it was a later CD, but it was with Larry Kuntz on guitar and Josh
I don't
Nelson
think
on
I
piano.
have that. Oh,
Yeah,
that would be lovely.
I'll send you that one too. Yeah. I actually watched, there's this show that stems from here on Thursdays at 7. See, Toby, I'm spreading the news. It's called Zero BPM. And an engineer who's also a percussionist, he was doing live shows from his studio, even, with masks. But recently, since it's gotten really bad in LA. Um, he's doing remote, and last week in fact, you can see it. You probably would really enjoy it. He did 4 guitarists, each from their own remote section, and they played what it was really fun actually. They played individually, and then together they played a blues, but they basically shared I think eights, and they just went around, a whole bunch of times, and it actually sounded pretty good. There was not a huge amount of delay that you noticed.
I was just curious because I didn't think it was technologically feasible. It's great if they figured out how to actually do it live.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't play together. You know what I mean? They played,
Oh, okay.
one guy played 8 bars, one guy played the following 8 bars, and so on.
Okay.
So basically, they were trading just eights, but without anybody playing, like comping. But yeah, it was wonderful because they're all wonderful guitar players. And I was just so, tag the link, Toby. Sure, go ahead. And yeah, it's just really, there's a lot of great guitar players, and you being one. And it's just a endless supply of wonderfulness to me.
Indeed. Well, after all, I'm the biggest guitarist in Chicago. No, but in all seriousness, yes, one of the delightful yet profoundly humbling aspects of living in the United States, and I came here in 2000, is that there are so many world-class musicians on any instrument in any style. So just being in that environment, I've found fruitful and delightful and, as I said, profoundly humbling.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm prone to want to tell the story of how we met. Do you mind?
Sure.
So I guess it must have been in something like 98 or 99.
Oh, no, dear.
No, it was a lot earlier.
It was 91 or 92.
Oh, it was. See, I'm very bad with years.
I am too. I just know that I was in Hungary between 91 and 95.
Okay, okay. And
and I
it was
think,
during the war too, right?
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a number that you probably
Well,
remember.
the war in ex-Yugoslavia.
Yeah, yeah. So, me, in my usual way of bravery, especially when I was, when I was a younger person, um, I got an offer to go to Yugoslavia to might have been the Ritz. Can't remember. It was like a really nice hotel to perform. And I
Oh,
took,
in Belgrade?
yeah.
It was probably Hyatt Regency.
Oh,
There was a nice club in the basement. In
yeah,
fact,
that was it.
I played at the opening of that club. Strangely enough, that was one of my first professional engagements.
Yeah, that's it. That's really funny. That was yeah, it was a really beautiful room and a beautiful hotel, and I had a luxurious suite myself, which was really nice, and the food was excellent. And then I made some friends in Yugoslavia, and I loved the people, and I really got a chance to see because the UN would always come into the club, and the news people were staying in that hotel for like CNN. So I really got to see, disappointingly, that CNN was not you know, the brave, courageous, truthful news station that I thought it was. It was just like basically everybody else, just, talking about a little bit of the truth so that the story could be, a good story. And so anyway, I made a bunch of friends, and I was booked for a month, but I had to stay for 6 weeks because after a month, the war escalated and there were no planes anymore from Belgrade. So, and it was kind of who was running that hotel was people, they were a little shady. They were kind of, like I wasn't sure I was, I was going to be chopped up or something, and because I complained about how they were dealing with my travel, I think. Anyway, make a long story short, I did get on a midnight bus to Budapest. And
I forgot that whole background, how you ended up in Budapest to begin with.
right. So, and I was very weirded out because I had never traveled without having someplace to go, specifically. And, like a gig and somebody meeting me and all that. So I luckily found a hotel, but I really didn't have a lot of money because I was waiting for the agent in somewhere, Switzerland or something, to send me money. Do you remember that part? Send me money.
Oh.
Okay,
I
well,
have the memory of a goldfish, so.
Well, you'll remember as we go, but I'll try and make it a little succinct. But I was waiting for the agent, and so I was just kind of waiting, and I won't go into it, but I had a really bad experience with this guy from Turkey because I was so open after 6 weeks hanging out with a lot of cool people, and I just made myself vulnerable. So the day after that was when I went to look for a jazz club. And I found that jazz club, that really big, huge room.
Merlin.
Yeah. From which I still have a t-shirt. And I went there, and there was a great jazz group playing, gypsy, was it guitar player? I can't remember. Piano, drummer. Do you remember?
There are many excellent gypsy jazz musicians in Budapest, and jazz musicians of,
I do forget this guy's name, but he happened to know some people I knew in LA because he had traveled on boats and stuff. Anyway, who should I meet in the audience but this big, great guy, Zvonimir Tot, who is a guitar player. And we became fast friends, and I make a long story short, I arranged to get out of Budapest by train, and because there were no planes, and I just remembered this. So Zvonimir took me to the bank, and both Zvonimir and the bank person said, well, you're not going to get your money probably for 4 or 5 days, which really made me upset because I didn't have any money and I really had to pay and get out. And so the money from my agent, right? That was what you said was going to take a while. So I went back to my room, and at that time I was reading these very spiritual books about being in control of your own reality. So before I went to sleep, I decided I'm getting the money tomorrow morning and I'll be on the train to Vienna. So I just decided. I went to sleep, woke up, you picked me up, you took me to the bank, and you were saying, I don't think it's going to be there. And anyway, we got to the bank, it was there. and then I had a huge suitcase, I remember that too, and you helped me to the train, and you put me on the train. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
I remember. Yeah.
Now you see why I say that Zvonimir Tot saved my life, because I don't know what would have exactly happened to me. I don't know. But anyway, you were extremely kind. And you had left Yugoslavia because of the war, correct?
Yes. I left in the summer of 91. And it wasn't an easy decision, but I realized that what used to be my country didn't exist anymore. Also, nobody was attacking my province, which I considered my home, which is called Vojvodina. I'm from the capital of that northern province of Serbia, Novi Sad. And I refused to go and shoot at someone else's home. So my best buddy and I pretty much split overnight. And it was a bizarre environment, kind of like Saigon in The Deer Hunter. Huge contrasts, kind of a surreal vibe, despair, huge extremes, poverty, wealth, degrading social norms. And in the midst of all of that chaos, we were actually playing jazz 3 to 4 times a week. It hadn't happened many times since then that I played jazz 3 or 4 times a week. So it was completely bizarre. I mean, to be fair, we played it poorly, but we were playing. And then we realized that if we don't split immediately, we will be quote unquote volunteered. And roughly a week after we crossed the border into Hungary, they closed the border, and about another week later, they were at my door. The Serbian or quote unquote Yugoslav army, to put me on a truck and send me to the front lines, and I wasn't going to allow that. So yeah, that's how I ended up in Hungary.
Whew. Incredible. This last week, I think so many people got blown away by what was happening in DC. But I remember when I was in Yugoslavia and sitting with my friends, like having coffee, and you could hear guns in the way distance, and people's family and friends were being shot at. It really, that's pretty close. I don't hear guns like that, here. And,
are you sure you were in Belgrade?
Yeah. Yeah. You could hear it. It was way in a distance, but you could hear the guns going off and stuff. It was wild. And we watched TV and we watched what was happening, and yeah, there was definitely shooting and all kinds of horrible stuff. But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that a lot of times, we just no matter who you are, but especially Americans, because Americans have had a pretty good life in general. We don't even realize
some Americans.
Yeah. Yeah. But we don't even realize what's happening in reality in other areas of the world,
Well, I remember in 2015, several of my friends, and I have smart friends, were telling me, that there is no way that Trump can win. And I told them then, you're wrong. And I know you're wrong, not because I'm smarter than you, but because I have, besides knowing a thing or two about history, I have watched fascists rise to power in Serbia and Croatia and Bosnia, and I know the mechanism. So in a few short days, we will see the beginning of the end of that abomination, at least in terms of the actual presidency. But yes, there are definite commonalities: economic crisis, mass disenfranchisement, feeling of despair, the rise of a charismatic sociopath as a leader, who then promises greatness and glory, vaguely, of course, and who identifies an enemy, be it Jews, Mexicans, or whatever it may be. So the commonalities are rather glaring.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
it's
of course,
really interesting.
there's the exquisite irony in the fact that I escaped fascism in one country only to live to see it in another. But so much for the wisdom of my life decisions.
Well, you know, I mean, unfortunately, this, I don't know if it would be just this planet or other planets too, but, humankind. I remember listening to Eckhart Tolle, well, for reading him, and there was this book, I forget the title, but the first chapter was just basically about how screwed mankind is. And I was so surprised. I was like, Eckerd, I just didn't even expect that. And then, of course, he went on to talk about how we could change and what to look for and, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, this this planet has, I mean, I personally just think that I still have friends who are Trump people, but I just think we are literally from two different planets or two different universes. And I just, because they really believe they're right and they're nice people. And although I was talking with another friend of mine yesterday and she said anybody who's like what's the word she used? Like a real crazy Trump supporter, like really, yeah. Yeah, I probably would not be
Well,
friends with somebody like
that
that.
probably depends on one's definition of nice.
Yeah.
Uh, but as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to ideological differences within the boundaries of civil discourse, I'm all for it. But when it comes to such extremes and the abomination that is Trump, uh, he and people who support him and I inhabit utterly irreconcilable moral realms. So uh, it may not be an admirable trait, but I don't want to debate them. I don't care about their reasons. I don't want to be around them.
Okay. So you guys who want to be around him and talk, you're not going to get a
We're
chance.
trying to talk about music and stuff, and it went into politics. But hey, we're living through. I believe there is that allegedly Chinese curse that may have kind of defined a good portion of my life, including the present moment, and that is, may you live in interesting times.
All right. That's true. Oh, gosh. Well, so something that you've been working on, we talked about this, and teaching yourself some beautiful music tools. I'm going to show the six Zvonimir Tots together. Can you tell
It's
us
actually
about this?
yes, it's actually Tot.
Sorry.
That's okay. uh, well, I've been sitting in my house, bunkered in since March, going nuts, and I'm also a university professor, but I'm nowadays teaching rectangles on the screen, which is inherently bizarre. But we do what we have to do. Uh, so I've been figuring out things to do musically to not go crazy, and I've done several projects. One that I'm getting ready for is to play on a friend's CD, and for the first time recording it remotely for somebody's actual CD recording. But I did several videos. One bolero, Si tu me dices ven, with my friend and colleague Adrian Ramirez, who is a marvelous Mexican musician, guitarist, requintista, arranger, and producer. I did another split screen video with the harmonica virtuoso Howard Levy and singer Solitaire Miles, and I did one by myself, just as an exercise, because I'm fairly clueless about audio recording and video editing, so I did it as a practice. So I did the Mexican bolero, Historia de un Amor, by Consuelo Velázquez, and I did that with 4 requintos, guitar and bass, and some auxiliary percussion, and just did it as a practice for audio recording and video editing. And by the way, for the past maybe 3 years or so, I've been playing the Mexican requinto as well, which is primarily used for bolero trios. It's a small. I don't have it here by me. It's a small-sized Mexican guitar tuned a perfect fourth up. And when I first started playing it, it was strange. I mean, yes, it's a guitar just with a smaller measurement, but you know, I can technically play it. But it's a transposing instrument, and it's transposition in F. That's not that common, like French horn or alto flute or English horn. And the first time I played with another musician, another guitarist, I kept screwing up because what I see ain't what I hear. And I realized that first time that I couldn't look at him. If I was just listening, I was okay because I was reacting musically. But the visual information, him playing a chord that looks like something else than what I'm hearing, that was hugely confusing. And of course, if there are any wind players listening to us now, that I'm sure that they're laughing their butts off because that's normal to them. They're dealing with it every day.
Yeah.
Whereas I had, of course, written for transposing instruments, but I'd never played one.
Yeah.
And it was an adjustment. Now I'm more used to that reality of existing in 2 keys simultaneously, so that basically with F transposition, I'm always playing in the dominant key. So if the band is in C, I'm in G.
Yeah.
But at first, it was rather confusing. So anyway, practicing all of that, I did this little recording of Historia de un Amor. Not necessarily jazz. This is bolero, but there are little jazz elements in the solo.
Okay. Here we go. Wow, beautiful. That was a great job you did.
Thank you. I don't know if it looked that way on your end. Something went out of whack with the video and audio sync on my end, but
Oh,
the
yes.
original video is synced correctly. So I don't know. Uh, Facebook.
Also, it says, Facebook is weird because I think they actually took it down. So, um,
Took one down.
I think they took the video down.
Well,
But
I sent you a YouTube link. I don't know if you were playing YouTube or Facebook, but it should be on Facebook as well. Well, anyway, that it is what it is.
no, sometimes what happens is that Facebook, uh, quite of their own accord, and I think it's really through the bots somehow, they actually take down the video. So I'm not sure that that played the whole thing. Quite of their own accord, and I think yeah. So anyway, hopefully we'll see. And usually I have people who talk to me.
So are we still live?
I believe so because yeah, because we had Roland and Toby commented. Roland said it's grand how you introduced the subtle jazz influences, and
Thank you
that
very much.
very beautiful, the classic bolero, and yeah, and let's see,
In fact,
Toby wanted
oh,
to
I'm
know if
sorry.
you're familiar with Diego Garcia or Twangero.
I don't believe so.
Okay, so there you go, Tob. Um, so were you going to say something about that?
Yes, just to say that Mexican music is sort of my first love.
Oh,
Uh, Growing up as a kid of maybe 13 or so, uh, I, for some reason, started loving most of Latin music, but Mexican music in particular. It's a longer story. It has to do with the popularity of Mexican music in the 50s and 60s in former Yugoslavia. Um, but for some reason, I felt it and got my first at that time horrible cheap turntable and started buying Mexican records, what few of them we had. And you might imagine that that particular affinity may not have been particularly conducive to social acceptance of a 13 and 14-year-old. Uh, like, oh, dude, what's wrong with you?
that kind of thing.
When kids were listening to American rock and British punk and
Yeah.
whatnot. Um, but anyway, I never I kept listening to that music as an adult, but I never tried playing it seriously until about 3 years ago when I started studying bolero, and when I had myself built a custom-made requinto, and I started taking lessons with a great Mexican requintista, Adrian Ramirez, who fortunately lives here in Chicago. And I started transcribing the requinto parts of great requintistas.
Yeah.
Obviously, Alfredo Gil with Los Panchos, who invented the instrument. It's a young
Oh.
instrument.
Hmm.
Uh, and Gilberto Puente and so on. In fact, I will probably be co-writing a book on the requinto with my friend and colleague Adrian, because according to what he tells me, it would likely be a pioneering effort. He would write the textual part about the history and technique of the requinto, and I would be doing note by note transcriptions of which I've already made about, I don't know, 10 or so. And the reason it would be a pioneering effort is that the whole bolero tradition, the tradition of bolero trios and the tradition of the requinto, are oral traditions. Nothing was ever written down. So that's something that's going to take a while. I'm estimating another year or so, but I'm looking forward to writing, or rather co-writing, that book.
That's great. I have some attachment to boleros because my first husband, Gus Garcia, his mother was known as the Angel of Mexico. From when she was 14, she was a bolero singer. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, we were married for a while before she passed away, and she had a beautiful voice, Adelina Garcia. And she was actually on the road with a very well-known composer from Mexico named Gonzalo Curiel. And so, yeah, there was a lot of that as I was going through my first marriage, and yeah, just boleros are really, they're so beautiful. I mean, let's say there's a lot of beautiful boleros, just really, really beautiful, and it's special. It really is special.
Indeed.
The way you looked while you were playing those was beautiful too. You looked like you were in love with the guitar and the music. It was beautiful.
I do love that music, yes.
Yeah. I have two questions for you. Um,
Sure.
One is from Taylor Hatch, who's a guitar player. If you had one record that influenced you to be a jazz musician, which one would it be?
Oh, I I don't think I can answer that meaningfully. Um, I guess one of the records I might mention is something that's not a famous record at all, but I was already a jazz musician, or an aspiring one, when I got that CD. It was, I think, early '90s, uh, and it was actually a two CDs that came out on Crisscross, uh, with Philip Catherine on guitar, Hein van der Geyn on the double bass, and Tom Harrell on trumpet. They're called Moods 1 and 2 by Philip Catherine.
Oh,
And uh, those records exemplify a lot of what I find myself drawn to in jazz: freedom, lyricism, brotherhood, love. Uh, Philip Catherine is not that known to the American audiences, but he is probably the most significant and most distinct European guitarist since Django Reinhardt. Uh, in fact, on the nerd side of things, whenever that was, 13, 14 years ago, I did my doctoral thesis on the music of Philip Catherine, and I was privileged to interview him. I traveled to Belgium with a couple of days of interviews, and I got to play uh, an unplanned gig with him. I went to listen to him in, I think it was Astier, Belgium, and we had just met there. I had just arrived, uh, and we're in the dressing room, and I see two guitars there, and I said, "Hey, you want to play a tune?" Sure. And then I realized what he was doing. He was testing me, and then when we played the tune, I said, "Well, look, the for the first set, I have some set program for solo guitar. You want to play the second set together?" I said, "Sure." So so I got to play with one of my
ah,
heroes, and on that Moods record, the bass player is a wonderful Dutch bass player, Hein van der Geyn, a beautifully lyrical player, and of course, uh, most jazz musicians know of Tom Harrell. So
yeah.
there is one of the records, but I I say that with hesitation because there were many, but maybe this one is worth mentioning because it's not one of the usual suspects.
Yeah. My our friend Taylor said basically like Philip is the Howard Roberts of Europe.
Well, everybody can draw their own parallels. Philip is a beautifully distinct musician who comes out of Django Reinhardt, but with a very distinct voice of his own, with modern harmonies and a very personal, compositional and playing touch. He's one of those great musicians whom we recognize after just a few notes. And
Yeah.
that is the rarest and most precious quality of all, in my opinion, because that's the one quality that transcends style and historical period. Like
Yeah.
what do, I don't know, Bach, Mozart, going back, Palestrina, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Philip Catherine, Wes Montgomery have in common? Well, after three notes, you know who it is.
Yeah.
Ennio Morricone.
Yeah. Yeah. Taylor's mentioning Laj Lund. I don't know him.
Uh, I know the name. I'm unfortunately not very familiar with his music.
Yeah. Let's
And
see.
there was another question, I think.
Yeah, there was. Let me see. What got you into playing the guitar in the first place?
Well, initially, my mother kind of forced me into taking some lessons.
Uh-huh.
That went on. I was a kid, maybe
Yeah.
I 12 or so, and that didn't go very well. I wasn't practicing, and the teacher, I later realized, was not very good. So then the guitar, I quit, and the guitar sat in a corner
Uh-huh.
for a few years, and then I picked it up and started trying to figure things out. That went horribly. Then I got a few lessons from a more or less an amateur, but who showed me a few chords, and then I started playing on my own. But actually, I did everything late and wrong as a musician. And I was fortunate that at the age of 16, I met a phenomenal lady who changed my life and who got me on the track to becoming a professional musician. Her name was Milenković. She was my first ear training and music theory teacher in Serbia, in Novi Sad. And she taught me functional ear training, which is something that to this day, as a university professor, I mostly teach classical harmony and ear training and jazz guitar. So to this day, I use her methods not because I haven't seen different, but because I've never seen better. So, and I never had a guitar teacher until I actually went to Budapest. So I was already in my 20s. So I'm not a self-taught musician, but I'm up to a point a self-taught guitarist.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, of course I love the guitar, but I don't necessarily see myself as, well, I'm not a guitar fanatic. I suppose I'm just a musician who incidentally plays the guitar.
Well, you could have fooled me from that first concert that I heard.
Well, I didn't mean to say by that I don't care about the guitar. I care a lot.
Yeah.
It's just that, there are instrument fanatics
Yeah.
out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. It in fact often that kind of obsession results in great command of the instrument. And of course, I've practiced a great deal over the years, but I'm not so obsessed with guitar itself. I'm obsessed with interaction, and I also care about composition. But interaction with other musicians, I think, is paramount to me as a primarily jazz musician. So that's one of the reasons why I very rarely play solo gigs. I mean, I'll do it if somebody pays me, but essentially I'm bored.
Yeah.
but interacting with at least one other human being, that's what I thrive on. And in fact, that human being is often a bass player, because to me, the definition of a jazz band is a double bass plus anything. And since I'm not a bass player, I can say that without sounding like an asshole.
That's interesting. Yeah,
In
that's
fact,
cool.
one of my CDs is in fact a double live CD, Standards Live at the Jazz Showcase, with the wonderful Chicago bassist Kelly Sill, and that was the first time that I dared record live, and not only live, but on most of my other CDs, it's all or predominantly original music. On this one, we played only standards, and deliberately, without any charts, without any rehearsal, we went to the famous Jazz Showcase Club in Chicago, and we didn't even know what we were going to play until we got there. So that's one of those records. I think one of the videos that I sent you the links for is one of the cuts with Kelly that's on that live CD.
Oh yeah.
So anyway,
Actually,
give me. I love the bass players.
yeah. So who said that? Oh, Doc Brown said he loves that record with Kelly Sill.
Thank you. That's Andy Brown, my former student and an excellent guitarist in his own right. Hi, Andy.
Cool. Hi, Andy. Yeah, and I wanted to ask who the bass player and drummer were on that first video of you in the concert. They
yeah.
were great.
Well, remember I mentioned the CD Moods with Philip Catherine?
Yes.
The bass player on that CD is Hein van der Geyn, which is the same bass player that played that festival with me. So
He's
that's
great.
he's
Insane.
a phenomenal bass player.
Yeah.
So that's Hein van der Geyn on the double bass, and the French drummer Mathieu Chazarenc.
They were wonderful. I mean, your trio was great. There were so many moments of beauty, and yeah, it had, if you don't mind me going on about it a little bit, it had heart, and the arrangement was. I like arrangements like that. There's an arrangement, obviously, but it doesn't inhibit the flow of the music. You know what I mean? Sometimes arrangements get a little too complicated. And so it was obviously a great arrangement, but it aided the flow. And then all the playing was amazing. And there were moments of, like, whoa, yeah, So yeah, I just loved it. I loved your soloing. It was beautiful.
That was a very nice arrangement. And actually, for that festival, I flew in from Chicago. Hein flew in from Holland. Mathieu flew in from Paris. So
wow.
we met for a quick rehearsal, and then we hit the stage.
What song did you play on that cut?
Just a Closer Walk with Thee.
Oh, right. Okay.
The spiritual.
Right. Yeah, I loved it. As a matter of fact, I would like to show something else now too. So I have your list here that you said there's Black Orpheus, and It Could Happen to You with Kelly Sill. Maybe we should. Oh, but I do want to play the Paulinho Garcia, definitely. What should I do first? I'll do Paulinho.
Well, let's go chronologically. Let's do the one with Paulinho, and you guys in LA are fortunate to have him now, and I'm totally jealous. Paulinho used to live in Chicago, now he lives in LA, and I love him and I miss him. And this is one live concert that we did, but we also did a studio album. It's my CD Unspoken Desire, and it's two duos that comprise the album. One is and it's all acoustic. One is Paulinho and myself, and the other half of the record is me and the bass player Larry Gray.
Okay. By the way, you wouldn't know this, but I for 2 years I think it ended about 2 years ago, which is I find hard to believe. But for 2 years, I curated a club downtown, um, and it was really nice. It was in the back of a high-class vegan restaurant, and the room, you actually opened the door and you stepped into this club. And it was, had a small stage and lighting and sound, and held about 60 or 70 people. We had a lot of good times in there, and Paulinho played there twice. It was really nice. Paulinho. Okay, let's see.
Paulinho is a fantastic musician and with a world class feel with the groove, and
Yeah.
and also it's interesting to listen to him sing and calm himself. He is also or is a bass player,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that also helps his sense of time and groove. But how he displaces his singing rhythmically on top of a steady groove, that's an art in itself. And I know just enough about Brazilian music to be able to recognize his greatness
Yeah.
at it, even though I can't do it myself.
I'm with you. I totally get that. Okay, so here's Zvonimir and Paulinho.
The sun rises up from the sea as though it is answering my plea. The city light is gone, replaced by nature's one. As I replace my pain with thoughts of you, as I sing and play my guitar with hopes it will reach where you are. I give my love sun rises up from the sea, as though it is answering my plea. The city light is gone, replaced by nature's one, as I replace my man with thoughts of you. As I sing and play my guitar, with hopes it may reach where you are. I give my love, this maddening love to you, my wistful star. For as long as I can sing and play my guitar, I will always be there when you are.
Oh, so pretty. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, I miss Paulinho. And you know, playing with a musician like Paulinho, especially on a subtle bossa nova such as Black Orpheus or Manhã de Carnaval, uh, it's I tried then and would again if we hopefully get to play again. Uh, find the right balance of what to do because uh, what Paulinho does is so subtle and on these lyrical tunes almost fragile. So I think one of the important things for me is to not overplay
Yeah.
because it can easily destroy the beauty that he is creating at the moment. So I just try to discreetly fill in the spaces without overplaying.
Yeah, well, that was really beautiful. And Paulinho doesn't, he really is a minimalist, you know? And in his playing, although his chord choices are different and unique, and his singing, of course, is really beautiful. So I think that adds to the whole thing. But you were beautiful in there. You were absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I miss him.
Did you record that in a church?
Uh, yes, that was a concert in a church, but the CD we did was a studio CD.
Okay. Um,
That's Unspoken Desire.
Unspoken Desire, Roland. He's always buying CDs from here. He must have a million CDs at home. But also, Mark Baldrige, he asked how you were doing. The last time he saw you was at Brookfield Jazz Society. Do you still perform with Catherine Whitney?
Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah, but I haven't seen Catherine in a while. Yes, I remember the gig at the Brookfield Jazz Society. That was fun. We did an organ trio with Dan Murphy on organ and Ernie Adams on drums. I, in fact, that was an interesting tryout for some of my ideas because I think one of my next CDs will be an organ trio CD.
Oh, fun.
Not immediately. I have one one CD is just coming out now on March 1st, and then there will be another with Balkan music, and after that, I will probably do a CD with an organ trio.
It's nice. What do you think about the way over the last 25 years music has kind of mixed up together, mashed up together? What do you think about that?
Explain, please.
Well, like for instance, you're doing Balkan, but with jazz flavors. So it's a mix of music, and I've seen that more and more. A lot of classical musicians, especially string players, have come into jazz groups more and more. People are hiring them, a celloist to add to the group instead of a sax player.
Well, I think fusions of different musical styles and different instrumentations are a natural thing. For me, it's important to do any sort of fusions in an as organic way as possible, meaning that I will not attempt some kind of fusion just because I think it will be appealing to anybody, or just because I find it intellectually interesting.
Yeah.
There needs to be some deeper reason. So, for example, my newest CD that's coming out on March 1st, called Saraband Blue, is sort of a jazz, classical, acoustic fusion for acoustic guitar and string quintet. We can talk about it maybe a bit later.
Yeah, and I have it. I downloaded it so I can play. I'd like to I'd like to play something from it too. And by the way, Roland did just buy Unspoken Desire.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated. So the reason I did that project, and we're still doing it, obviously on pause during the plague, is
Plague.
I've always had an affinity for strings, and I've written for strings, and I have a background in classical composition as well. So that sort of a fusion is. It took a lot of work to figure out the details, but conceptually it's something that was relatively intuitive, even though the execution was rather painstaking, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So the idea was not primarily intellectual. The idea was primarily aesthetic and emotional, which is important to me.
Yeah.
Intellect comes into the compositional process, but the final result should be something that elicits emotion. And there is a thing about strings that's a sort of a problem that I have. And that problem is with the string quartet. Obviously, the problem is just mine, because Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven certainly didn't have that problem. But nonetheless, I have this problem, which is that to me, a string quartet sounds like somebody didn't make it to the gig.
What do you mean?
There's no bottom.
Uh-huh.
So I miss the bass.
Yeah.
And then I realized that several years ago that if I want to hear what I at that point vaguely was hearing in my head, I had to make my own band. So the band is string quintet, which is string quartet plus the double bass and acoustic guitar. The idea was basically to have the rhythmic agility of a chamber group with the harmonic richness of a string orchestra.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that the folks who are on that record are wonderful musicians and dedicated people who invested a lot of their time and energy and expertise into making it work. Carmen Kassinger and Lisa Fake on violins, Cheryl Wilson on viola, who's also a world-class jazz singer, Paula Kosover on cello, and Rob Kassinger on bass, who is a sort of a freak of nature, a phenomenal musician who is a regular member of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and has a divine arco bowed tone. But he's also an excellent jazz player, and in fact, he was critical for this band because the string quartet plays the ink, whereas the guitar and the double bass play about half-half, some improvised, some written, and I needed a very strong classical player on the double bass who is also an excellent jazz player, and there aren't many, as you know. So anyway, that's what that band is. I think we have a couple of live cuts, and the disc Saraband Blue is a studio album. I can probably shoot you.
I have Groove Miwa and Aneri.
Well, if you don't mind, let's play both, but let's start with Groove Miwa.
Okay. Yeah.
I just sent you in chat the cover of the CD and the band pick.
Okay. So.
Yeah, let's start with Groove Miwa if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Oh, God. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Wow.
Uh,
You're really doing some special things, man.
well, it helps a lot knowing exactly who I'm writing for and what people's strengths are, and so the string quartet is only playing the ink, but they also have solos. They're just written solos, whereas the bass player and I actually improvise.
Yeah.
It's for a non-bowed string player, there is always a challenge of how to write idiomatically for the instruments. I know the double bass technically fairly well, and I've been writing for strings in general for quite a number of years. But when there is something that's technically a bit more difficult, I have little cheats that I use. For example, for the violin, I have a mandolin at home, and that's the same tuning as the violin, but with frets, so I can actually check whether something is physically playable. And for the cello, I just detune my guitar in fifths to check it out that way. In this particular tune, the challenge was I originally recorded this as a trio tune on the CD Blue Quest, and this was an orchestrated arrangement. And so this is a simple minor funk riff, ABA. The challenge was to do so that there are 6 A sections in the whole chart. One of the challenges was so that none of them are the same.
The
So
same harmonically or form wise or.
orchestration wise.
Oh,
So the one of them is just a unison. Then there is block harmony.
oh,
Then there is 2 unisons and with a counter melody. Then there is at the end there's 2 different reharmonizations, highly chromatic, and then the very last one is everybody unison. So none of the 6 A sections are the same.
beautiful, just gorgeous. Mark was asking if did you think of using a violin with other instruments or instead of a string quartet?
Well, I've recorded um, I've recorded the quartet version of Saraband Blue, one of the compositions and the title composition of this new CD. I recorded it before in a quartet version with guitar, bass, and drums, and violin in the lead. And in fact, it was originally a commission that I wrote for a world-class classical violinist, Stefan Milenković. And he was doing a project of all sarabands, and he asked me to write a jazz saraband.
Ah,
So I did that, and yes, that was originally recorded as a quartet with the guitar, bass, and drums.
I guess Mark, I'm not sure if you lived in Chicago, but he's mentioning these names, and maybe you know them. He used Diane Dellen, Stephen Hashimoto, and Neil Alger.
Who did?
This Mark, who's on, he's one of the listeners. Do you know those people?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah, I think Mark either lives in Chicago or lived in Chicago, maybe.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah. Um, let's see.
And
And
well, if you don't mind, while we're at it, maybe we can play the other cut,
yeah.
Aneri Lament. This is a ballad, and this is in fact influenced. There's improvisation in it, but coloristically and harmonically and orchestrationally, this is influenced by one of my musical heroes outside of the world of jazz, who passed away recently, Maestro Ennio Morricone.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
the colors in this tune are heavily influenced by Maestro Morricone.
Yeah, wonderful composer. Okay. The first time I saw Cinema Paradiso, which he wrote all the music to. It was in Japan, and so it was in Italian, and then the subtitles were Japanese. So, but I cried the whole time through, and a lot of it was the music.
Movie by the great Italian director Giuseppe Tornatore, and he and Morricone had collaborated many times. Maybe the last one was what was it, the best offer, the migliore offerta, where Maestro also wrote the music. Incidentally, I recorded the love theme from Cinema Paradiso. I think one of our viewers just bought Unspoken Desire. On Unspoken Desire, there is the love theme of Cinema Paradiso with acoustic duo with bassist Larry Gray.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I recorded whichever part. I can't remember because there's two themes, right? And I recorded one of them. Yeah.
The love theme is. Oh
yeah, that's
gorgeous.
Yeah, totally gorgeous. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Oh God, it's so pretty, and it's. I mean, and I don't mean simple in a bad way. It's just so simple. It's simply stated, and it's just. I think that's what really gets to me.
You nailed it. I think that's a quality, a rare quality that some of the greatest masters exhibit, which is apparent simplicity.
Yeah.
But there is always a great deal of subtlety underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Mozart or Morricone. For example, in that quasi-simplicity of Morricone's, there is always subtle orchestration. There is always some kind of a gorgeous counter melody that if we're not listening actively, we might even miss. So that there is a lot of beauty in it. Some of it is obvious, and some of it is understated.
Yeah, well, that's why I like writers also like Rodgers and Hart. Their music is so, it has that quality. It's simple, but it's really beautiful. And yeah, of course, there's a lot of great American songbook writers who do write like that, little gems, like short songs, 16 bars long or something, and it's just like fantastic. Okay, and here is Aneri, right? Lament?
Yes.
Oh my God, beautiful. Ah, wow, gorgeous. So, forgive me for asking again, but so is this music original or is this traditional
No,
Serbian music?
no, this is all my music.
Okay.
There is one arrangement of a Croatian folk tune on it, but it's basically my composition except for
Okay.
a little melody. But everything else is yeah my music.
Um, truly, truly gorgeous, and I felt like I could hear um, Morricone's influence, um, and you said everything except you and the basses soloing for this project was written out.
Yes, the string quartet is fully written out.
Yeah. My goodness, it's really gorgeous, Zvonimir.
Thank you. That's the newest CD. It's going to be on the market on March 1st, and it's called Saraband Blue.
Oh, that's one question I wanted to ask you. You mentioned the word saraband. Is that a style?
It's a Baroque dance in triple meter, and my take is a sort of a in between space between the Baroque saraband and the jazz take on it.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I actually understand what triple meter is.
It's in three.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, does that mean it's 3 times all at once together? Okay.
No, it's just a triple meter.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just in three.
It's a waltz.
Well, it's a saraband, but I guess it can sound like a waltz.
I guess I call all 3/4 waltz, and I shouldn't. Um,
That's okay. That doesn't matter.
I love waltzes. Um, let's see. A lot of people love this. Hi, Jamey. Yeah, guitar player, dear friend of mine, Jamey Finley, who's really good. Oh, and Sasha Boutros. Hola. She's over in, well, Europe sometimes. Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is just a little technical comment. Roland, I actually don't hear any. I'm not doing any tapping, so I'm not sure. If it still continues, let me know. But
Well, if anybody wants to hear these cuts directly, they're all on my YouTube channel. So go there, or in my some of it is on my website. So
great.
the free stuff at least.
Okay. Are you on
The
Spotify
not
at
free
all?
stuff. The not free stuff is also on my website. So.
Are you?
The Spotify? No, I refuse to put any of my music on that crooked platform. In fact, one of my CDs that was done and financed by the record company is on Spotify, and I understand that. But those that I published on my own label, Groove Art Records, are not, nor will they ever be. Those people are crooks.
Yeah. Yes. Very. It's hard. It's really hard to say otherwise when the amounts of money that you see are 0.003 for a song that gets played. It's very hard to get past that.
Yeah, I'm not going to support that.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Wow. So we know what you've been doing. There is another recording here of which you had mentioned. Several people had mentioned the with Kelly Sill.
Oh yeah, that was the double live CD, Standards Live at the Jazz Showcase.
Yeah, that's in Chicago. Yeah.
Yes, Chicago has the lovely distinction to have two of the oldest jazz clubs in the world by different criteria. The Green Mill is the oldest jazz club in the world, continually in operation at the same location from the time of the Prohibition. I mean, Al Capone had his booth at the joint. There was even a tunnel dug under the street through which they smuggled booze into the joint. It's great. And the Jazz Showcase, well, until recently, when the original owner Joe Siegel passed at the age of 90-something, was the oldest jazz club in the world, as far as I know. Continually, they changed locations, but continually under the same name and under the same owner. I mean, since I think 1947 or 1948, the man hired Charlie Parker, and pretty much everybody since then. So this was recorded at the Jazz Showcase. Now the video is a little grainy, and it's the sound from the camcorder, but the CD was obviously done professionally with mic'd and mixed and mastered and all of that.
Yeah. And is Kelly Sill the only person in there, or who is there other people?
Yeah, it's just a duo.
Oh, okay.
We just went out and played a bunch of standards with no charts, no rehearsal. Bless you. We didn't even know. Are you okay?
Sorry, I'm a loud sneezer.
Yeah, we didn't even know what tunes we were going to play until we got to the joint. So
Fun.
That was the first time that I dared do something like that. I figured if I suck, well, then I wasted some money on the recording, and that's it. But Kelly is such a wonderfully intuitive musician, and it's great playing with him because you simultaneously feel safe and nurtured, and yet he kicks your butt. It's a lovely combination of things every time I play with him.
Nice. Okay.
This is just it could happen to you.
Okay. Nice. I'm gonna I'm gonna come down because I don't want to sit here the whole 11 minutes. But that was really fun, really nice. He's a great bass player.
Indeed. A wonderful musician and a beautiful human being.
What do you think success is, Zvonimir?
Well, that depends on how you define it.
That's what I'm asking. What is your definition?
I've never bothered to define it because success in conventional terms is never something I aspire to, at least by the conventional definitions of fame, money, etc. I don't know that I think about that much. I think about creating music to the best of my ability and making it with the people I admire.
And that makes you happy and
It
I mean that is success, right?
it fulfills me.
Yeah.
You know, happiness is an elusive quality. Strangely, as somebody who is an American citizen, but I'm not American born, I note that Americans culturally tend to be obsessed with happiness. But I suppose happiness is not something one achieves by seeking it. However, if we pursue meaningful endeavors and meaningful relationships with other human beings, that then we might approach something that resembles happiness, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I like asking that question. I mean, everybody basically gives the same answer, but it's just nice to consider.
And also, success compared to what? Again, by standard definitions, I'm not successful at all. On the other hand, in the context of the fact that once upon a time in my life I was homeless, sleeping on park benches, and that I very easily would have been dead had I done what was expected of me, then in that context I'm spectacularly successful. I'm alive.
How did you get out of that situation?
I split the country. Oh, you mean the war thing? But um, the homelessness thing. Well, little by little, I found a cheap dwelling, which was great, and then I started playing gigs. Then I found a little teaching gig. So I've survived, and I'm not street smart by any measure, but I've just found myself in the situations where I had to figure out how to survive. So, that when you have to, you'd be surprised what one can come up with to ensure one's survival. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's obvious too with people like yourself that there is a well, some people would say something looking over you, but I actually say it more like kind of like you're looking over yourself, and there's a spiritual bent to that, and but it's like you can feel that you're comfortable in what life is made of. That's what I can feel.
That may be fair to say. Again, that I think about great many things, but these things that you're asking me about are not something I necessarily contemplate.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, me too. I mean, I don't think about being successful. I think about what the next project is, and
Exactly.
yeah, a lot of times I like to, which I decided a long time ago that things that were good for me and other people were the things that made me happy. Not just things for me. It didn't really felt very shallow happiness. So, yeah, a lot of times I find myself doing things that, like these conversations. The reason why I started them was just because it felt weird not being able to connect with people to do things that were engaging, and so I felt
And
like.
it's a lovely initiative, and I'm most appreciative of you having me.
Well, I thought, oh my God, this is a great opportunity for Zvonimir and I to catch up, and for me to, you know, introduce you to some people who might not know you previously, and have Roland buy a few CDs,
Much appreciated.
which he also bought the live CD as well.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, if you come to Los Angeles, you'll have to meet Roland. He's a sweetheart. Um, well, I want to thank you so much for spending 2 hours and hanging out. It's very generous of you, and I'm so excited about hearing your music now over and over again. And this new record sounds incredible. And yeah, I'm going to send you a few things in the mail, in the regular mail. And
I look forward to that. Thank you.
yeah, just lovely to see you again and talk.
Indeed, and I hope we can do it in person one of these days.
Me too. It's been a while since I was in Chicago. I have cousins. My first cousins actually live in Chicago, and so rarely I go there, but I do go there. But it's been quite a while since I was there last. But you never know. It could happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you that tomorrow I am going to have a drummer named Ferenc Nemeth.
Parents name it. Who is my school buddy from Budapest days? And
Okay,
who's
Ferenc Nemeth. Okay, thank you.
Ferenc.
Oh, Ferenc. Oh,
Parents name it.
okay.
And who's a fantastic drummer now based in New York, and he has played with everybody, and he's playing all over the world. So a wonderful drummer, wonderful musician, and also a great human being.
That's all I have on this show. Great players, great human beings.
Thank you so much for having me, Cathy, and thank you everybody for watching and listening.
You're welcome. Thank you, Zvonimir. I love you, and thanks for being on. And everybody, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.